let's talk a little bit about our players today. So Michael is currently in third place, I believe. He's at 10-5. He's at plus 1022, and he's barely ahead of Chloe Fatsis, who I believe now is in fourth place. And Sid, now Michael has a rating of 1992, and people might know that Michael won the National Scrabble Championships, which are not called that anymore, but that's how I think about them. So 2 years ago,
Yeah,
experience
he's
with
a very
player.
aggressive player, very high scoring, seems to have really learned a lot more words. I think he's even better than he was when he won the championship
Wow.
a year or two ago. So, very tough player.
Yeah.
And opposite him, we have a very different style of player. I think of Michael as being very offensive based, and I think of Sid as being very defensive based. So, I think we're going to have a really good matchup here.
Yeah, and he may not be a name that's as familiar as some of the people who've won big tournaments, but he's got a whopping rating of 1954.
When Michael won the Scrabble Players Championship, Sid finished second in the World Cup. So Sid has had his own big result, and I'm getting the word from our producer that we're ready to go. So we are going to be cutting in the game, and both players are at the table, and we are about to start.
Excellent. So I just want to say to everybody, since we're pushing the fact that we're Canadian, that you're going to hear the letter Z today,
Yeah,
which would have been, I think it should be a rule that if you're doing the other dictionary, that you have to say Z, and if you're doing this dictionary, you have to say Z. But I fully expect in the commentary, someone's going to mention that we're going to say Z. So let's just get the spinach in our teeth out of the way and have a good game.
well, I want to be saying blank and Z, good tiles like that. I much less like to say U and V and stuff like that. And Sid draws a U, but he has the Q to go with it. So I think he'll have some nice options here.
Well, I think he's really, he's got Aquay, he's got Quay, and he's got Qua. So those are his, and sometimes if you have other good tiles, you might want to hold on to that QU and play it the next turn, get rid of that W. But I think the right thing to do is to exactly what he has. Now the question becomes, do you play Aquay or do you play Aqua?
I think I'd play the E off here. It'll score four more points because you'll be getting to the double letter score. The WIE leave is not very good. I don't see any reason to keep the E here. Sid does play defensively, so he's looking for ways to limit responses. And if you don't put the E there, your opponent can hook it pretty easily and get all the points from Aqua. So
Yeah.
I would expect the E to come down.
Yeah. And a W is a very versatile tile. You can make lots of two-letter words with it. So I don't think you need to have two vowels with it. It's not a clunky tile.
Right.
So
And
as
I like where
expected, it
he
comes
played it
down.
there.
Right.
To put the Q
Exactly.
above the multiplier square to avoid putting the A there, for example. So that looks like a nice placement.
It's the right thing to do. The only thing about it is that it does allow for bingos that start, let's say, with a C or V to come down. But that's not a reason to stick a vowel underneath in between double letter scores. So I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. And now we have. So the thing for Michael is he needed a more interesting consonant, like an R, for tear down and
Right.
downright and all that type of thing. So let's see what he can do with this rack.
Yeah, that's a good point because looking at his tiles, you're thinking for sure there's going to be an eight, but he already has three vowels and, four vowels were floated. It's not really what he's looking for. I definitely think he'll find a bingo, but is he going to be able to find one that hits a multiplier square?
Well, I don't know if he's going to necessarily
Is
find
there
a
no
bingo.
seven in there?
I don't see a 7 in there personally. If
Oh, I
anybody
just
does, let
assumed there was going to be, but yeah, now that I actually stopped to look at it, I don't think there is.
I don't think there is either.
Oh, and now Heidi has loaded the Quackle for us. So Heidi is working in the background and we thank her for her help. And there is no bingo. So if there's no bingo, it feels like the W is the ugly tile and the O is the ugly
Of course.
vowel. So you're probably just
Yeah.
going to want to play off WO or OW somewhere.
Right. So yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to be. I personally would probably do OW over the E in Aquay because I want to make it more difficult to do a double double through it. The E is a very good tile to play through, and this way I've split the board. I've got an N and an E to go after OW, and then I can go on top of the OE with the T. So that's personally where I would put it. Where would Quackle put it? Let's have a look.
Well, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And Sid does not like to hear that because you can see he has twirlier set up on his rack. So he's really hoping that E stays open.
There you go.
Some players might fish off just one, like just drop the W, and that would be a very strong leave. So you could see maybe why. We'll see what Michael elects to. But just like I thought when I first looked at this rack that there had to be a bingo, Michael's probably thinking the same thing. Such promising tiles, different floaters. But I think we'll see him probably spend another minute or two and then drop the W and probably the O somewhere.
Yeah. The trouble is that for Michael, is that we have the knowledge, we have access to a dictionary. He doesn't. And he's, desperately going through, I won't say desperate, it's early in the game, but he's going through the entire dictionary. And he's like, what am I missing? And you start questioning yourself. And obviously, AENT is blank is just a stunning, stunning leave. So I don't think it's difficult to know to get rid of the WO, but he doesn't have an I to go under the Q. So he's decided to play, let's hope
He's
for
playing
Townie.
Townie.
Okay.
It's not what I would play either, Robin. I've
Yeah,
told you at the start of the broadcast how I think Michael tends to play very aggressively, very long, a bit more like a computer, almost like that. Um, when you're that close to a bingo, you don't normally want to break up such balanced tiles, but he will score more with this option than one of the woe plays we were suggesting.
right. And the other problem is that he saved an A and there's already two A's on the board. And now he's picked up another one. Okay, so
Right.
bifacial, like without even, ugh. See, so what is he going to play through, right? Anyway, let's see.
R-
Well, but the good news is he's blocked twirlier, so
Yeah.
that has helped him. But to break up the rack, anyhow, it's an interesting style. It's one that has done him extremely well, and let's see how it pays out for him.
Yeah, and Sid will play Rit here with three underlaps. That looks very reasonable. It doesn't give any more floaters that Michael would be looking for. And you have to wonder also for Sid now, Michael spent about 3.5 minutes on the first turn, and the first turn tends to be a bit easier than other turns just because there's not that many tiles to work through, not that many spots to look at. So I wonder if Sid is already wondering if Michael has that blank.
Well, and that's his own, and yeah, right. Well, okay. Could be. I don't know. I don't know if I would be able to infer that from playing Townie. I would think the opposite. And the point I was going to
Yeah, I
say,
think you're right. Towney, like if he had played WO after all that, then you're
yeah,
thinking, you know what, he probably does, or at least he has all these bingo tiles that are very close to a bingo. But after
right.
Towney, now Sid might actually not have such a good read on it.
And also the danger of playing five tiles when you have a blank is that you might pick up the other one. And then you're going to play early in the game when it's easier, more time for Sid to come back. You're going to play off two vowels with probably 1 point tiles or less, and you're not going to. So that second blank is gone for the rest of the game. Like, I don't want to pick up a second tile, a second blank. Like I know Joe Edley, who's a very wonderful player, likes to play a lot of tiles early in the game, 6 letter words as much as possible to maximize his chance of picking up a vowel, of picking up a blank.
Right.
When you already have a blank on your rack, I'm not looking for another blank. I'm looking to play small, bingo with 7 tiles, and then have a greater chance, 7 more chances to pick up that second blank.
And I think Michael followed that strategy this time, leaving AICL blank. That looked a lot closer. To be fair to him, last turn, if he had different floaters, there was words like maniacal or biracial, but didn't quite work for him. He now has a balanced rack that will be bingoing next turn.
Yeah.
As Sid is going to look what to do. I wonder if he thinks, IN, is that a Jin setup, a Zin setup? But I don't think you would think that because it's hard to sort of hit that big letter there in two directions.
No, there's nothing. There's no, I mean, with the Z, maybe
I guess
Ritz.
TZ
You'd have
endings.
to go TZ. You can't go the other way. The J, you can't do anything. So, yeah, it's possible, but I think right now the question for him becomes, I think it was mentioned this morning as well, and it's something that I struggle with as well when I have ing on my rack is like, do I try to preserve that ing? Especially you have an AR out there, so you've got a nice G hook for ing. So do you just try to play off maybe the two L's, for example, or even just keep linger, which is a beautiful save, Just play EL, for example, off townie, saving the L hook for your second L is one possibility.
Yeah, that's a very strong leave. If you leave linger, there is a lot of tiles you can draw on that bag that will hit a bingo. So I definitely think that has a lot of merit. And in talking about holding ing, on this board specifically, you could also look at just holding the G because there's already that IN set up. I don't think that's
Yeah.
necessarily what you want to do, but it is a consideration.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. I don't think you want to kind of leave it so that you're forced to make a nine. I don't know if that's the best strategy, but I can certainly think that that is something that might be considered.
it looks like Sid is considering glut forming gin, and
Yeah,
that would
it
leave
looks
a
like
balanced
yeah.
leave of liner and not really open up too much for Michael. Sid, as I mentioned, really doesn't like to, he's not going to give you any floaters, any scoring spots. And if he sees a scoring spot, he's going to be looking to take it out.
So since Michael might take some time on his next turn, I'm looking already at things like celibate, which, although it takes an S, blocks the board a little bit by putting that C out there. But I'm trying to find some bingos that will hit the B or the C on the double letter word to the T. There's really no point playing over the AR. There might be a point playing through the AR for a nine, if there is such a thing.
Right. Like a care sort of worder.
Well, if he
But
had
I
a
think,
V instead of a C, he would have had variables, for example.
exactly, yeah. So it looks like he has an idea in mind, and uh, like I'm just trying to think what he's playing based on how he's arranged his tiles. He's going
So
to be
he's
playing
already doing,
celibate.
yeah, he's going to play celibate, yeah.
Yeah, and I like what it does for the board. Like you said, the C obstructs the left side of the board as Michael's going to be pulling into a bit of a lead here, and it, you know that it takes an S, but celibate is more commonly used as an adjective. So we'll see if both players are familiar with the S being valid in this dictionary.
Right. Now, it won't last for very long because, someone will play through that L, maybe sticking a Y there, or God forbid an X like Phelps. But you can't think that way. He had other words like balletic, biacetyl. He's having a lot of, there's very hard to get the C or the B on the double letters. None of them is going to do that. The anagram of celibate, of course, is
I
citable.
think biacetyl would have put the B on the double. No,
Would it? What biacet? Bias? Bi.
I believe so because it would be one to the
Okay.
right.
Okay, you're absolutely right.
But that also
But
would have opened up
yeah,
S hooks to the
along
triple.
the triple.
So
Yeah.
this looks perfectly reasonable. You are right by playing through the L. It definitely would, open the board a lot. The top row, and then also if it goes down below the L, then you would be able to hook that and go to the left. So the board
Now
is nice. Go
we
ahead.
can't, we can't, no, I'm just trying to, yeah, we'll learn not to talk over each other. I think we both have a lot to say. So we'll get our rhythm going, guys. Don't worry about that. He's got Milliner through the L. That's true. Triple, triple. It's unfortunate. So let's just fantasize if he had played EL and he would have either picked up another I or he would have picked up an M, and he would have had Lingier or Mingler. So he would have been bingoing right now if he had just
Yeah.
played EL.
Yeah, and it's tough to just score 3 points, but when you can leave a leave like linger, you really want to be considering it. So great idea by you there, Robin, and a good tip for our players who are starting out at home and trying to get to this sort of high level of play. If you're looking to play more tournaments, we have a few coming up, including in Belleville this year, the Canadian Scrabble Championship in March. That's the next one hosted by our folks here at letsplayscrabble.com.
So here's an interesting situation. I don't think I would have done what Sid did. And because he did it, he prevented a bingo. As you can see on Michael's rack, he's got Okius set up. I probably would have played Mill, saving the ER, because I just think ER are just like as good as S blank practically sometimes. And he now has blocked Michael's bingo by adding on those two tiles, and he's picked up a bingo, which he can play off celibate. So
Yeah,
wow,
especially if he's
wow.
confident on that hook. I wonder if he was playing that thinking he's obstructing the lane, or he's just like, you know what, 6 more points early in the game. I'd really like an ass. I'd really like a blank.
Play
Uh,
off more tiles. There's three S's, four S's and a blank to come. Um, I don't have an S. Why am I setting up an S hook for Michael, who just played off seven
right.
tiles? So very, very good thinking on Sid's part to extend that.
Yeah, that looks like a really nice play. Especially, you're a bit behind, and so just trying to really open that top of the board makes a lot of sense, even for a defensive player. He would have opened it either way, but by extending it, he gets those 6 points, and he takes out the tar hook that would have allowed Okius to come down. So now Michael again has a nice balanced rack, just like that first turn of the game. And we'll see this time if he plays longer or if he just sort of looks to drop a few of the tiles to sort of keep a balanced leave to go for bingos on the following turn.
Well, his highest scoring that I could see, and takes a bit of cojones to play, would be Ascoy off Celibate. That's going to score you 34 points.
Okay, yeah, that's a tough one to play. The eye does open that big triple lane, but for 34 points, it's not a very human play, but I think it might be a
It's
pretty
not a
good
human play.
play. And then the other thing you have to consider is like he's very close to massive bingos at the top. Like mistake takes a lot of different hooks, right? Like if you were to just fish off that O. Now, I don't think he necessarily is going to be hitting enough bingos to make that reasonable, but again, fishing off one sometimes really can be the best play.
Which would you want to get rid of?
Like
I
maybe
don't know, the
just
K hit.
core, KOR. I've been
Oh, get rid
talking
of
so
yeah.
much instead of looking. Uh, but it's tough. He's got an 8 point lead plus tempo. So, it's pretty much tied. A lot of game to go. He's picking up the AS, which suggests that he might be thinking of that Ascoi play.
He's also got
Um,
Tycho under Rit, which opens the board and saves ES.
oh yeah, that's a nice play too. Um, he looks like he just put Oak to the side. If there's a way to get rid of those three, leaving TIES or TAES, like, Koi somewhere, you always want to be trying to leave those really strong four
Right.
or even five tile leaves.
And remember, four A's have already been played, and three I's have been played. I stand corrected by Alec, which I do want to make a mention that Mill also takes the E without the R. So that might have been a reason just to play Mill. And it's possible that Michael doesn't know it.
That's
Now, one
true,
thing I
yeah.
do know about Michael's play is that he often imagines like he'll take chances, like, well, what if you don't know it? What if you know, and I didn't take, and I didn't take the chance. So I think he's more willing to make chances and hope that the other player doesn't have his word knowledge. So I don't know how much he knows about Sid. I don't know how much they've played.
Yeah, Sid sort of likes to say that he doesn't study, but he's been around the game for so long and he reviews every annotated game that's been posted. He seems to have really picked up a ton of words. So he might not have the very top word knowledge, but he's sneakily good. And we'll see how good it is right here, I think. He has Distend set up. He's had it set up a long
He's been
time.
a,
Will
now
he
the
have?
question is, right, does he
Yeah.
know Celibate takes an S?
And
Like
if
why
not,
isn't he
mediates is
slapping
going
it
to
down?
come off Michael's rack, right? So,
Now,
um,
Michael picked up a bingo right away, ID8s under Rit.
right, mediates from the top though is what he'd
He
really like
mediates.
to play.
So he's bingoing no matter what. One of
Oh,
the
I
things
see
I
what you
didn't
mean.
like about Oak is that he played the O, which will now go in front of the K. And so you want, like, say you pick up a W or a J, like that's a real easy 30, 50, 60, points. And he's taken away that chance by playing that O and hoping to pick up another one. So to me, it was a bit of a questionable play, which worked out very well. But
I see what you mean, but I was saying I really wanted him to try and keep TIES or
yeah,
TAES, and he
yeah.
did. He left ties, and it led to bingos in two spots, as he pointed out. So if he had played Tycho leaving ES, there's just so much more volatility. He's opening a double double like that with the eye there. So I'm actually liking this play of
You're
Oak.
okay with, yeah. He also could have played
Um,
okay under Rit, an arc, Woe and Rit.
oh yeah. Oh well, WA?
He
No.
doesn't know. He doesn't know that celibate takes an S. Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's a tough one.
yeah,
It's an adjective in our natural conversational speech, but celibates would be, I guess, people who are celibate. And Michael's going to waste no time here, and nor should he. This is clearly the best play. and it's going to put him out to a big lead. But for Sid, he does have a very nice balanced rack. He has that odd hook, and we'll see what 2 tiles he draws, because these will be very important.
Right. So you see how word knowledge is important, needless to say. If he had played Disdain, not only would he have bingoed, he would have blocked mediates, the much higher scoring bingo, would have forced Michael to play underneath Writ, which would have opened the board, giving Sid opportunity to come back and play more bingos. So this miss right now could spell the end of the whole game right now. So we'll see what happens. He did not pick well.
Alec is pointing out Disdain would have allowed ideates with 4 overlaps. So
Oh, we can't see. Thank you, Alec. I can't see it.
and I think that would have been found by Michael. He's very good at that sort of finding.
Yes.
Sid, though, drew the Y. He didn't want the Y, but there's that big scoring spot you said. The K is gone, so no K front hook there, which is something you always want to sort of keep in mind.
Yeah, I can see it, Alec. Thanks very much. I see the overlaps just by the way you wrote it. Thanks.
And now we're going to jump back to Michael, who's sitting on about a 70-point lead plus a turn. So, in Scrabble, when you're talking about a lead, you tend to think about it based on bingo. So we'd say he's up a bingo, and we're, getting towards the halfway point of this game.
If the scores are correct, people are asking if the scores are up to date, but I believe that they are. Yeah, 143 to 212. Perfect. So we have an interesting situation here. Now we only have one hook for that yar, and it's taken. The K is gone. So that part of the board is kind of dead. And it's going to be up to Sid probably to open up underneath Writ.
I would
Because
think
there's
so.
nothing after the Aquay.
He could also play Sunny for a fair number of points here. Would leave OE 2 vowels. He's got to think after if Michael doesn't have an S very often, because otherwise he would have taken that spot with the lead. Even if it didn't score much, he'd want to be taking out a big lane. Michael, again, very offensive, let the lane sit. But it looks like Sid really wants to hold on to that S, which is reasonable, and he's pushed YON to the side, which I guess would open the board with the Eye of City, right, to play Yoni.
I see what you're saying, but I don't agree with that thinking.
Okay.
He not only has to undouble the ends, he has to take that S spot. It's early in the game. There's only one S out, other S out. He's got to play 5 tiles, maximize his chances for more S's, maximize his chance for a blank, not open the board to an easy overlap for Michael, and he has to score. So there you go. That's my analysis.
Yeah, I would have played Sunny too. That was the play I saw first. He had considered Yoni, and we like to see players considering different candidate plays, as we'd call them. But I think after the decision, he seemed to have made the right decision. Michael
And he has the
has
OE that plays under Writ. He has letters that play under Writ. Yeah, because that's how he's going to have to. So right now, what is Michael going to do? Like, there's really nothing to do other than open the board. I don't think you really have a choice.
Yeah, but
unless you play even HOE under Writ opens up an S hook.
Absolutely. Is there a word you can play starting with my that maybe doesn't take an S?
Starting with
like
my? Oh, yeah.
Like MEH, for example, although I guess that gives bingos to the left. But those are the sort of considerations you want to make. Oh, AIM, that would be clever. AIM forming AN, IN, and MY.
Yep.
That really kills the highest scoring bingo lane on the board.
Another possibility is just to play HOM as he's looking at underneath Writ, arm, woe, and that. If you're from Montreal, it takes a C in front, Chom FM. I think I made maybe 2 people laugh right now, but in Scrabble, it doesn't make a word. The trouble with playing home is that you're taking away your best letter that goes in front of that Y.
And if you give up bingos, they're going to score more a lot of the time because you're just, moving towards the double word scores. So I like the idea of AIM personally. I know maybe he's not the most defensive player, but that's how I would have gone. He's going to take the points. which is definitely also reasonable. But he
And
does
he's
leave
given
three
a
vowels.
rush. So he's looking at Issacore. I think this is what he's thinking in his head. But he's got Soros, and I don't know if he knows it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Chooser, I imagine, is
Chooser,
also.
chooser fits as well, and it's
Yep.
much easier to find. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, he's
I can't see him missing chooser, and,
yeah.
and there it comes. So he
And
is
now he's back in this
choosing
game.
the right play.
Michael has an S, but it's absolutely the right thing to play. Wow.
Yeah.
7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 24, 29, 31, 35, 6, 7, 8, 91 points. Fabulous. Or is it 81?
Uh, 91, I believe.
91, yeah.
Yeah, we have again Heidi to enter that for us to save us from doing the math. And
Okay. Sorry. Old
that's
habit.
okay. Just a reminder. So Michael has the S here. Are you going to burn it on this first turn if you were
Absolutely.
him? Yeah, it scores a
Absolutely.
lot.
The trouble is with what? You don't want to
Yeah.
do sub A. You want to get rid of more than one vowel, but
The only way to do that, I guess, a C,
SPAE.
A, S, E, A, but then you're leaving BIP, which is ugly. You could play SAE, but BIPA is ugly. So he's looking at SAB again, three vowel leave.
I mean, you could play sepia, saving BA, and just go screw it. I'm just like I'm playing my game, and but the X has not been seen yet, and there are three O's, so the sepia would cause an OX overlap for a lot of points. So you have to start thinking about what's left in the tile bag and how can your opponent come back and really hurt you.
Absolutely. And another consideration is your opponent just bingoed, which means that the seven tiles on Sid's rack are totally random. When people have taken a few turns without bingoing, they start to work towards having more balanced tiles. And right now we see Sid actually has pretty nicely balanced tiles. But from Michael's perspective, there's a good possibility Sid's tiles are not very synergistic.
So ISBA's being suggested in the chat, and I'd have a hard difficulty disagreeing with that one. It gets rid
Yeah,
of two tiles and it doesn't open up anything too dangerous.
I think we both just missed that. So thank you to Jackson Smiley. Hey, Jackson, how are you? Uh, I think these players are, they'd love to see Jackson at the tournament, but they're probably relieved they don't have to face him.
Right. And he's decided to play BAP. That's very interesting. He's more worried about a bingo than he is about something like this.
Okay, and
And
Sid plays
I think,
very
oh, and
quickly.
he picks up Augites right without even thinking, which he wouldn't
But,
obviously have had if he had played Isba. He would have had a different rack. But
right.
there's nowhere to play Augites as far as I can see. And
Um,
Unitages is the only bingo with the N. I'm doing this in my head, guys, so just
yeah, I don't see a bingo, definitely not through the C.
through the
If
C.
UPA was good, it needs the S, then he would have his bingo spot, but it's not. So he's going to just probably try again to work towards a rack like TIES or TEAS, just like we were saying earlier in the game.
Or he could right now take up that
Cashing.
chooser spot. I think it's time to cash it in because he's just picking 6 tiles now, Sid, and I think now's the time to do it. If you had something like to the N, a big letter, there we go, a big letter to the N, triple letter, 6-letter word, then okay, so he's opening up. Okay, he's going for it. Good for him. Now I think he's playing a little fast. He has 9 minutes to go, so there's still lots of time. He played it awfully quickly.
Yeah, he played it quickly and very aggressively, but Sid doesn't have the other S, so it really could work out for him here.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's a lot of points for usage. So it
32
makes a lot of
points.
sense. He doesn't draw the S either. He draws the J and that Z, as we're calling it. So we will see what happens. But let's go over to Sid. And what are you thinking on his rack here?
I'm thinking put it in alphabetical order so I can think better. Okay, just a
Right.
second. So the first thing I'm looking at. So this is how I'm analyzing the board. I'm looking to see can I get a 6 through the E to the N, maximizing the P or the F. That's the first thing I'm thinking. I'm also thinking I don't have that other S, and does Michael have it? Because why in the world would he have done that? So I'm scared. So I'm looking to, if I can't use that EN, I'm looking to the right of usage, and I have an O. I can play DORP, for example, which is going to nicely block the S hook. I'm thinking Michael has the other S. There's no question in my mind, because why would he play that?
As I asked you, that's exactly what I was thinking. I happen to have a bit of a feeling that Michael plays longer than most people, so maybe he's a bit less likely than others to have an S after that play. But most people, for sure, after playing usage, are going to have an S. And even if he doesn't, Dorp just overlaps nicely. Sid knows he doesn't have an S. He knows Michael might. Um, he has a bit of a lead, and when you have the lead, and the only real lane after Dorp are nines ending in ER that he'd be creating, or through that C. So he's now switched to Forte. Does that overlap? Oh, from the A
In
of
back, in back.
yeah, that's nice too. But if you're scared of the S, then I think you have to play Dorp.
I think you absolutely have to pay more defensively here. A few less points, but it completely to a great extent. I mean, how often are you going to stick SP or something? I mean, that's so. I mean, if you could stick the F there, it would be great, even better. But I don't think you can. So he's looking at Dorp. I personally think it's a better play. I don't know, Heidi, if you can show us again, Quackle, if you could just do a quick sim, that would be great.
And sorry, Robin, I'm looking at the chat, and all four S's have been played. So apologies for our commentary here. There is a
Oh,
blank unseen though, so that could be what Sid
well,
is
there's an
afraid of.
S. Are you sure? Because there's an S in, oh, the
Yeah,
remaining time. But it
two
says
in
there's,
choosers, one in sunny, and one in mediates. I have a
so there's
picture
a
of my own
mistake.
face over the remaining tile pool, so I can't seem to really see
You can move,
them.
you can make your
Can I
screen
just drag
narrower.
it?
Make your screen narrower and it'll go up. But
Oh, I
there is
see.
an S showing in the remaining
Oh, yeah.
tiles. So,
Thank you, thank you. I got it.
so there, but all four are played. So there's a mistake. Heidi, if you can have a look at that, that would be great. So I've been
Yeah,
going
so
by
I
the,
guess just while Heidi was entering the
oh,
plays,
sure, it
she
happens.
must have
Yeah,
just mistyped at one point, but
sure,
uh,
sure.
not a problem. Our very trusty chat is on top of these things, so I'm sure we'll make a few more mistakes before the end of the day, Robin, but I know that they'll be right there to help us out.
Thanks, everybody. It takes a community to put on a Scrabble tournament.
It's true. It
No,
reminds me of yesterday when Josh Sokol was on stream and he was making this really creative pathway to try and steal a game from Stefan. And there was 7 or 8 experts in the chat and the two commentators, and Josh was still thinking of this path that it took the whole everyone in the chat to try and figure out what he was doing.
okay, Morris is pointing out, Heidi, that usage was not entered. So
Okay,
let's,
Jot comes down from Michael. That scores nicely and holds that Z to try and get back in this game, while Sid has the X. Uh, it's going to be pretty much tied. The score is going to be a bit behind while Heidi undoes that one mistake. So we will get you the updated score as soon as we can. I think that brings Michael to 320, so just 9 points ahead, but behind on tempo.
right. So now we're looking at dangerous spots on the board. And the only two I can see, as everyone can see, is through that C, and then getting a very high point tile in front of the ER in usage and DORP. And if you're lucky, a blocking letter like a V, but visor can't be spelled that way. But he has got voice and voice setting up the R hook, or there's a D and an R unseen. So voicer for Michael, he might be looking at that, although it saves clunky ZU.
He'll also be
Okay,
looking at the unseen tile pool, right? And it's not that appealing of a tile pool as far as bingos go. There's a lot of ugly tiles from his perspective, the Z, the V, the U, the J. But if Michael has a blank, he definitely could be close.
right. So this is a situation where having the X is not great. To score, he could play fair and FE. But there's more consonants than vowels left, and you are stuck with that X. You do have that X to deal with.
But the X also, could be a big boon to him if Michael plays long below and it opens something up. So He does
The
have
fair,
FE set
yeah.
up right now. The alternative, I guess, would be something like fence or fencer, going really long, really going for that blank, thinking, I need that blank to win.
I like fencer a lot.
Yeah, I think the blank is just so important here. I think the person who has the blank is going to win, a really high percentage of the time. Is there an X setup he could make? Although on this board, you don't want to be making setups too often when there aren't very many scoring spots because anything you set up is going to be taken pretty often.
The only trouble with fencer is there are possible bingos. Are there possible? Yeah, I mean, EGINOR. I mean, yes, there's possible bingos.
Yeah,
So are you setting anything up for the other person, which you obviously don't want to do? It's the last thing you want to do. So if he had, if this was Michael playing voicer, would be great because nothing's going in front of that V. But FE, it's very easy to hook an ER. So wow.
and there's also only three in the bag, right? 10 unseen. So FE is sort of nice because it leaves one in the bag and puts some uncertainty to Michael, but also it sort of feels like you might want to like get some tempo towards going out. So this is a very tough decision, and I think Sid's going to use a lot more of this clock here.
Yeah, people are talking in the chat whether Refect or Fencer is better. I'm not, if someone could explain to me why they think Refect is better, it's going to score a lot less and it's still going to open up easily hookable letters. So
I guess
maybe you
the
could
R as the
each,
floater, Robin, would allow more bingos through it, would be my guess as to why people have a problem with that one.
yeah, there's a very good reason for that. Yeah, there's a good reason
Also, I
right
guess
there.
you could hook it with an S, like as the S blank to make says or something like that. Fencers and says, and then the Z would triple. So there's a few different reasons there. If the other R wasn't out, you could even consider fence, I guess, holding the R, but you are scared of that blank. When it comes this late in the game and you don't have the blank, you always have this feeling that the opponent has it, even though 3 out of 10 times here it's going to be in the bag.
Now, another possibility that David has mentioned, which I like a lot, is F underneath HO and WOO to make ho and woof. And it sets up an R hook for yourself as well. But it
And
also, oh,
he's just going to
he's getting rid
drop
of
the
it.
X. That is a
And
really interesting decision. So again, I was talking about tempo towards the end game. So this leaves two in the bag, which is going to be a bit harder for Michael than just one when he have a lot more information.
I'm thinking if he had played FE, would Michael have had something to the E with his Z? And I don't think he did. He
I
would have had
don't
like
see it either.
oeuvre, oeuvre. Since we're from Canada, we can pronounce it properly,
Oui,
oeuvre.
oui.
And that would have saved ZI plus whatever he picked out of the bag, which wouldn't have been terrible. So,
Yeah, that would have worked out pretty well, I think, for Michael, getting rid of those clunky OUV combination. And talking about bad combinations, Sid drew another N, which is what he really wasn't looking for there.
right. But with so many N's in the bag, like, I don't blame him. What do you like to play Knicks would have been ideal, but there was really nowhere to put it. So, by not playing that E, he's actually done himself a world of good if he wasn't going to pick up another vowel. We don't know, obviously. So the question now becomes for Michael, do you play this voicer? And you say, oh, he's looking at cuz. Okay,
I
that's
think that
interesting.
makes more sense. Voicer leaving UZ on this board is just
Yeah,
awful. It can get in a lot of
suicide.
trouble.
It's suicidal. The trouble with cuz, of course, is that he knows that FE is still in the bag, so it sets up an easy comeback. And they're basically tied, so Sid would be ahead, continue to be ahead. But
And go ahead.
he would leave a nice rack, but you're not bingoing. Here what you want to do is score.
Right. And it's scary giving Sid full knowledge, and all Sid would really have to do is make it out of two, and he'd probably win. Um, Michael would really like that N for Zircon or Zinco or something, but the N came to
Oh,
Sid.
uh, Zircon would just be it. That would be the game right there.
That would be it.
So
So Cuz
he's
comes
setting up
down.
visor. He's setting up visor for himself.
Yeah,
So nice
but he can't
bingo.
expect that
Oh,
spot to stay open.
well, he's got the he's got the blank.
Yeah,
on a board that is not really conducive to it. Even with now he's blocked a 9 to the ER.
right. He didn't know
And
he
the
was going
F,
to draw that blank. He had to assume the opponent has it. Sid's first thought will be something like Fez, but that can't be winning because RETNN isn't going to go out the next turn. So I guess can Sid find an out in two here while Michael doesn't get a bingo?
okay. So the bag is empty. Is this, I'm understanding this, we're up to date?
Yep.
Perfect. So can he set up the 2 and score? No, that's not going to happen.
I
I
don't
think
think
he
so either. I think
score.
Fez is best, and it's not going to be enough. But we'll see what Michael plays because it's not a guaranteed win. Michael's still going to have to play things properly here.
If he wants to play underneath the F in Fez with the V, he's going to have to use, he's going to have to play use the blank because I don't believe he's got anything that goes underneath that E other than an R. And there's no vir vor, right? Word
Right. And if you're
or there.
Michael, I think you have to foresee that Fez is coming down. It just feels like he's going to have to take out that Z. So you should already be using that time to think if he plays Fez, what am I going to play? Or if he
Right.
plays Rez, Rez groovier. So I guess he's not going to think like that. But if Fez comes down, what is my response?
So if we're playing clabbers, which is a version of Scrabble, if people don't know, where you can put the tiles in any letter as long as they anagram to a word, he would have had all those forgiver, forgiven, forgives, racks. But he doesn't, and I don't see any way to stick the V on the triple letter and come down. Maybe someone can. I'm not seeing anything yet.
Hmm.
So the situation is that, I mean, I think this should be Michael's game. He's got more time than Sid. He's got better tiles than Sid. Sid cannot go out in one turn.
Right. And I'm also looking, is there any usages ending in SP? Any word you can make with the blank there? Any even from down from arms? Like Armstrong is a name, I guess, and it's too long.
Too long.
But those are the sort of spots that can win you the
That's
game.
great. Great thinking. Yeah. I've always
So,
wanted to stick HED. I've had this little fantasy for years. And then I had an opportunity, and I think I missed it, off TOOLS to stick HED for toolshed.
oh, that
You
would
know,
be fun.
when you change the actual pronunciation of the word, it's just so much fun.
Right, like the flaming O
Like
flamingo
a flame.
as the famous one.
I always meant to make a list of those because those are just so much fun.
So he could
Uh,
play something like Grift, knowing that he's not going to get hit too hard back, but VOE, I don't think there's an out for that. But again, we were talking about outs in two, so trying to find a two-turn sequence where you can get rid of all of your tiles. Um, he could play uh, even just something like Rover to the ER, holding GIE blank, and then just go through the F afterwards. Seems like it should
they're
win.
suggesting Griever, which I think is a very,
Oh,
very
that's
nice,
a better version of what I was just
or
sort of trying to
Giver,
figure out.
Giver as a setup.
Oh yeah, Giver. That's from Morris. Hi Morris. That's a great idea because Michael knows he is the O and Sid doesn't. So with the E as his only vowel, he's not going to be able to address that.
Yeah,
Um,
and overfit. Someone has suggested it, and I've just seen it. So overfit does allow you to stick the triple letter. So that's the winning play right there. It's 40 points. You can't lose.
yeah, and as long as you're 100% sure that overfit is good, we know it's good here in the booth. Not sure if Michael sees it, even if he'll play it for sure, just because he has these other safer wins. Um, the pressure is
But it's
on him,
it's
though. The clock is ticking.
but it's very, for people out there who are learning Scrabble, very important always to consider your prefixes and suffixes. And whenever you have over, just make it fit. So put it on the board. So put over in front of the F and see if anything shows up. Just do it mentally in your head, and then you'll find it very quickly. That's you don't have to do the anagram. Just constantly do prefixes and suffixes.
Great tip for all of our newer players. And looking at the chat again, I see that Uncle Pedro suggested that if he plays Grift, like I'd pointed out, and I thought it didn't go out, it does with Hoove from the HO. So definitely that would be a winning sequence.
I think it would be pretty hard for Michael to lose this game.
Yep, but we've seen crazier things. He's going to play Giver. So there's that suggestion we saw in the chat. Looks like the best play. If you don't see overfit and you're not confident, love to see it. We always want to see people win the game as opposed to someone, blundering and maybe losing the game. So I love seeing Giver come down here.
So we're definitely, I think, going to see 10 or net underneath Fez for Sid, and he's going to do the math and he's going to realize that he can't. Now he could. What's our score here? If he could play nit. Does that block Michael though? Can he play something OT or? I wouldn't do an N easily like Heron, but if he
But
played
like
nit, if he
Gopher through the F, for example, right?
repot, like there's no way to block it.
No.
Yeah, there's no way to block it. You can't play just through the I and block it.
The ERO blank is just too powerful here. He'll have his choices of going out. So I think Sid just has to accept that and figure out the best sequence that will maximize his spread.
So he's going to get 18. That'll put him to 407.
And then something
Michael,
like 0.
yeah, 0 is easy. That's and hero 0, yeah. Whatever. I mean, sometimes you want to send a message to your opponent by your word choice,
Right.
the blank. You're going from hero to 0.
Right. I love it. Okay,
You do
so 10
Reno,
comes down.
repo. Yeah,
So from
I
hero
think
to 0, or maybe from 10 to 0, right?
right. And just the question is there something underneath the 10 ORD? No, nothing. Obviously, you have to make it an S or a
Oh, there
G.
is actually Ergo.
Ergo, there you
ERGO.
go. He's given him a better spot to go out.
We'll
So
see
he
if
should
he
have played.
finds
He should
it.
have played net. He should have played net. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so he's playing. Uh,
What?
is that E Rose? Is that valid? Yeah, EROS. Okay.
Oh, Eros. Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, scared me.
I I was pretty sure it was good, but I wouldn't be playing a word like that. That doesn't come up very often that I'm not, 100% on. But it is a 4, and at this level, we all should know our 4s, and Michael does. And
And
Sid might,
Michael's learning curve is to not play so quickly. He had lots of time, and
right.
should have looked under the 10 because literally between first and second place in one of these divisions, it's 5 points. And that could be the difference between winning a tournament and not. So he knows that. He knows that. I don't have anything to teach Michael. He's a wonderful player. But in this case, just take your time. You had 2 minutes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's stressful and you're on stream and you see a win and you put it down, and I get that. That play
Absolutely.
is 1 point better than our suggestions of 0 and hero that we first saw, but he did have a minute 54. So um,
Yeah, he
I
got
think,
19. Ergo would have gotten him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 18, 19, 26 points. That's a huge difference.
yeah, definitely. I think we're going to be stepping away. We're here on Let's Play Scrabble.com.